Alien Earth can be an okay show if you've never watched it before, and have your best friend Mr. Bourbon with you. I gave it a pass the first time through, however, attempting to rewatch it again was a very bad idea. It's bad writing after bad writing that could be ignored if you love the franchise and are just happy to see the retro-style dirty future. If you've never watched it and have any interest in the show, go try it out and come back, because I'm about to spoil everything, and I ain't waiting until Festivus to air my grievances. Boy Cavalier owns Prodigy, which is one of 5 companies that took over the world. The company invented a new hybrid synth, the body of a synth, but with the transferred consciousness of a human. They transferred several dying kids to the hybrid bodies. A sabotaged Weyland-Yutani ship carrying a bunch of elves crashes into one of Prodigy's cities, New Siam. Wendy, the main character in Hybrid, spies on her brother by controlling all the electronics somehow. She wants to help at the crash site because her brother Joe is there. Joe is a medic that doesn't actually pack any medical supplies other than a roll of gauze and is part of the search and rescue. Boy Cavalier sends Kirsch the synth to chaperone the children and eventually help retrieve the specimens. Joe's plot armor stops him from getting killed several times, and Wendy ends up single-handedly killing a Xenomorph. Morrow, head of security for the crash ship, tries to protect the assets and plants a device on Slightly the hybrid. Morrow will soon begin extorting Slightly to help him get one of the Xenomorphs back. Due to Joe getting injured, he gets a new lung from the company and is now indentured to them. He immediately starts planning his and Wendy's escape. His old lung was used to incubate a Xenomorph. Wendy learns she can hear and speak to the Xenomorphs. We get a close-up of her mouth every single time she does this. Nibs, the hybrid that never closes her damn mouth, goes insane. Wait, that's 2 weird mouth quirks with this show. I think someone behind the scenes has a kink. There's a lot of Boy Cavalier feet shown too. Anyways, Arthur Sylvia refuses to reset her memories, so he's fired and his wife Dame Sylvia does it. Nib starts going insane again almost immediately after being reset, thanks to Wendy freaking her out when she wakes up. With the help of Yutani, Morrow continues his plan to recover the specimens. One of the elves is a squiddy eyeball that we'll call the Eye. It can take control of organic life forms and they feed a U to it. We eventually learn that Boy Cavalier had a hand in the ship crashing in order to get the elves. Joe attempts to gain knowledge on how to escape and comes across the newly unemployed Arthur. Arthur still has all of his access and freely roams the island. Arthur disables Wendy's tracker and tells Joe the code to the boat. Oh yeah, Toodles died because of the Eye and because they left a 12-year-old in charge of the lab. Arthur finds Slightly at the lab because Slightly is still trying to figure out how to get one of the Xenomorphs back to Morrow. Arthur finds the dead Toodles and Slightly opens the cage to the Ovomorphs. Arthur gets face hugged. Wendy snaps after seeing the dead Toodles. Smee finds Slightly with the face-hugged Arthur. They attempt a rendezvous with Morrow. Kirsch the synth catches the 3 and for some reason tells them the correct way to go. On the beach, Arthur wakes up and gets chest bursted. The stupid kids will still drag the corpse to Morrow and his team begins to infiltrate. They are all caught by Kirsch after entering the building. Joe, Wendy, Nibs, and Curly decide to leave. Wendy unleashes the Xenomorph, which proceeds to kill a bunch of innocent people. They're caught on the boat, and Nibs rips the jaw off of a guard because she's jealous that he knows how to close his mouth. Joe stuns Nibs and pisses off Wendy.
What did you do?
Boy Cavalier decides that he wants the Eye in a human so he can speak to it and nominates the always sad-looking Joe. Wendy and kids decide to haunt the place with Wendy's Matrix powers. Joe and Morrow have their cage opened by this. Morrow goes again for the eggs and he fights Kirsch, which sees Kirsch get his back broken, but still is able to choke out Morrow. Slightly and Smee tie them both up. Adam the synth finds Joe and tells him that Boy Cavalier wants to talk to him, which will just lead him to the Eye. Boy Cavalier attempts to talk to the children and finds out they are in control and he begins to run.
Run.
Joe's plot armor continues and Wendy finds him just in time to save him. Also more Matrix powers to freeze Adam. Wendy and Joe find Boy Cavalier and catch him.
Now we rule.
What a big pile of shit this is. We need to clear something up. You cannot show a budget adult Xenomorph for an extended amount of time. It's blatantly obvious that it's a person in a latex bodysuit. There's a big difference between this and this. I understand it's expensive to do for an entire show, and you need to fit everything within the budget, but you can't have budget Xenomorphs and it not look laughable. The writers are suffering from some sort of dementia.
Maybe.
And a lack of basic planning. This leads to a list of questions and issues in this show. One of the biggest questions of all is, why is it never brought up that Boy Cavalier had a hand in the crashing of the ship? Morrow is only ever shown telling Yutani the ship was sabotaged. Later on, Yutani and Cavalier are at a hearing about the return of the specimens, and even when Yutani gets screwed over by the outcome, it's never brought up by her or Morrow.
Or maybe the pilot was drunk.
There's an official arbiter there. Morrow has the proof downloaded into his Johnny mnemonic brain.
I could carry nearly 80 gigs of data in my head.
And yet we are given nothing. In combination with the next issue, they had to have thought of this little twist after they had already filmed and wrote several episodes. Why isn't Boy Cavalier prepared for the ship potentially crashing into one of his territories? He seems unaware about what the ship was carrying. Sure, he would have put on an act for Utani, but not Adam the Synth. Learning this in episode 5 feels like a twist only if we don't remember his reaction and don't have the knowledge that this is never going to be brought up again. Then we get the fact that the writers apparently don't realize people actually watch security cameras. We are shown many security camera shots and guards walking around, but not a single person is actually watching these cameras. This allows all of the lunacy to unfold. Maybe save Toodles? Nope. Stop a potentially disgruntled fired employee enter a restricted area? Nope. Smee and Slightly also carry a face-hugged Arthur freely around the complex. Kirsch appears to be the only one that monitors the cameras on the entire island, and he can't even really be trusted. The hybrids also have all their senses being tracked and recorded.
Maybe our batteries just run out, and we're like...
Synths have always been portrayed as having a near-infinite power source. Remember David? He went for 11 years between Prometheus and Alien Covenant. And remember, Alien Earth is 16 years after Covenant. Nonetheless, the topic has been avoided for 7 movies. But maybe we'll learn this time since we keep getting told about recharging stations.
She has a lithium-ion battery that could power a small city. She doesn't need to rest.
150-year-old battery technology that's defying the laws of physics? I'm pretty sure if the writer's phone was powered by a nickel-cadmium battery, they would have wrote that instead. Let's not forget Curly. She wanted to be Boy Cavalier's favorite, and for maybe 10 minutes it was looking like she was going to be a potential antagonist for Wendy. This could have been an interesting dynamic in the group, and a real hurdle for Wendy. Not necessarily to be Cavalier's favorite, but perhaps to have Curly sabotaging Wendy, acting like a spy, or as a threat to Joe. Like most things in the show, they hint at something and absolutely nothing comes of it. I'm not joking when I say the whole thing lasts maybe 10 minutes. Finally, we have the Peter Pan allegory that is rammed right down our throats. But it goes absolutely nowhere. They did it purely for thematic reasons. The meaning is completely missing and contradicts what Boy Cavalier was hoping for.
I'll finally be able to have an interesting fucking conversation.
It's time to talk about Wendy. Since she's a hybrid, it makes sense that she has the strength of a synth, but the ability to single-handedly kill a Xenomorph in like 20 seconds? That's just crazy. She doesn't even have any knowledge of how to fight. This is a creature that just tipped over a 9,000-pound storage container 5 minutes earlier, and she was able to take it down with just a paper cutter blade. Being able to hear the Xenomorphs can make sense if all the other hybrids can hear them as well.
Really? Did you hear anything?
Like what?
Unless Wendy has been given powers by some omnipotent being, there is no reason the engineers don't know why she can hear the Xenomorphs and the other hybrids can't. All sound has a frequency and they even show it. They could easily capture it for themselves and tune it to an audible human level if they wanted to. This is one of many very basic things where the writers just expect you to suspend disbelief, but they forgot that they are writing a science fiction show and most people watching the show are going to notice very basic things. I see no harm in letting the others hear the Xenomorphs while not having the ability to learn how to communicate with them. The learning ability is what could have been the key difference between Wendy and the other hybrids. She already sort of acts like a child prodigy, which the show keeps bringing up in relation to the company name and Boy Cavalier's background. Now the worst offender of Wendy's powers. Her ability to be the lawnmower man without the mind fucking.
Lawnmower man's in your head now.
Any device connected to the network she can manipulate, even control over other synths. She is so overpowered that unless she's captured and has her limbs disabled, what would actually stop her from doing whatever she wants? Is there even an obstacle she would struggle to overcome? Maybe hobbling her wouldn't even work, because if they ever need to replace the actress, they'll probably have her go full lawnmower man and transfer her into the internet or another body. So what do we have so far? A prodigy hybrid with super strength, super communication skills, and the ability to control any electronic device. How can she get worse? Oh, that's right. The writers made her protagonist not even a hero, but an anti-hero that we're supposed to like and root for? She ends up slaughtering a lot of people with her pet Xeno, and they weren't even portrayed evil or bad. She just causes the deaths of many innocent people doing their job. They're basically a bunch of Joes. The writers have a lot of work ahead of them if they're planning on salvaging this character. Of all the characters that make it to the end of the season, Kirsch is only one of 2 interesting characters. It definitely helps that he's played by Timothy Olyphant. His intentions are completely unclear. He hides information from Boy Cavalier for some unknown reason, and appears to potentially play both sides of the Prodigy and Utani conflict.
The scientific method is a method, not a suggestion box.
At least I am assuming so, because he told Smee and Slightly the best way to meet up with Morrow. and Morrow was only captured when the initial plan went to shit.
But wait, how can you steal from a thief?
Morrow is the best character in the entire show. Extremely loyal and dead set on completing his mission of making sure the cargo gets back to Yutani. Although the writers did forget that he has a blade in his arm on several occasions, he has some of the best dialogue in the entire show.
In the end, man will always win. It's a question of will.
I'm afraid for what they might do to his character in the future. He's the only one that makes sense. And because he's actually a good character, I'm going to completely ignore the fact that he tanks a punch from a synth. Boy Cavalier is supposedly a genius, but seems more like an idiot. Book smart, yes, but for someone that became the youngest trillionaire ever, you would think he'd have some street smarts as well. We're also told he's impulsive because of his ADHD.
Sir, a defining symptom of ADHD as severe as yours is impulse control problems.
Probably because one of the writers also has ADHD, which makes perfect sense for the way this show is structured. Joe always looks and sounds mopey, invincible due to plot armor and purely a plot device for Wendy. The eye should have got him. This show continues alien Romulus's trend of not knowing how CRTs work. Romulus forgot that cathode ray tubes are vacuum tubes and still show a working one with bullet holes. Alien Earth continues this by not just having a screen glow, but think they can project a crystal clear image on a person's face, and the image wouldn't be mirrored. They also chose to state what the Alps were contained in.
3 inches of steel and tempered glass.
Yes, tempered glass is a type of safety glass, but that's not what anyone would use in this scenario. Zoos use impact-resistant glass, which is much more appropriate, and even sounds better. They make it sound like they use the same glass used for car windows. Now that 3 inches of steel bit. Just a few moments later after this line was uttered, we witnessed Toodles attempting to feed the bug some metal. Are we saying that they wouldn't have just started eating or dissolving the steel frame of the cage? And just for fun, Wendy stabbing a Xenomorph causes the acid to eat away a massive hole in the side of the storage container, but her paper cutter blade is fully intact. With the second season starting filming this month, let's cross our fingers and hope that we can get something decent, because as it stands right now, this one season is just completely unwatchable after the first time.
You know the story of John Henry and his 10-pound hammer? All night long he drove that steel, fighting the machine who can dig deeper, faster.